Okay, ladies and gents, are we live? It's your favorite Asian robot right here, hopefully your favorite Darktide YouTuber, and what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna go through the Infiltrate Veteran build, which I know several of you have been really excited for. So, what does the Infiltrate Veteran do in the first place? Well, let's start by explaining this. The Infiltrate Veteran is a debuff champion that basically allows you to play at range, debuff enemies, dealing with ranged threats, as well as closer range enemies, alright? So for example, maulers, you can burn through them pretty fast and also dish out some severe burn damage that can kill them over time. This is the last part is not important. Most important is actually the debuffs that you can provide. For example, although a lot of your talents say that what you provide is rending, it's actually brittleness. And brittleness increases the damage that any target will take from all of your attacks. You do this through the amazing Recon Lasgun, which works best for this build as opposed to some of the other, claimed builds out there. However, this build in general, alright, is designed as a commando debuffer, sort of jack of all trades kind of build. You aren't really going to be the main DPS. That role is going to fall to the Psyker, okay, or the Plasma Gun Veteran. You aren't really going to be the main frontline either. That falls to the Zealot or the Ogryn. You are mainly a in-between kind of character with a very strong infiltrate ability that allows you to go invisible, res somebody, or, save a situation. That, and you've also got Krak Grenades to supplement anti-armor. Alright? Boom! So, yeah, this is what this build is all about. Debuffing via brittleness, which is incorrectly called rending. We know this thanks to patch 14 patch notes being revealed early. Basically, your idea is to, be the can opener of the team. Now, how are you going to do this? First, let's get into gear. And also, camera vanish. I love doing that, and I don't know why. It's just amusing for me. I guess I'm a little kid sometimes. All right, let's get into your gear. First and foremost, if you have a hard-on for the Tanith First and Only and enjoy thinking about Gaunt's ghosts, or maybe you envision yourself as Gaunt himself, what you want to do cosmetic-wise is get yourself your Commissar hat, and this old Commando battle gear is probably best for this kind of look, alright? You can literally roleplay as a Commissar Commando, which is what I want. Okay, this is the most important thing. Okay, now jokes aside about the cosmetics, let's get into the actual gear. Your melee weapon of choice for this build, now I've tried a whole bunch, and you guys know from several streams that I tried the axe, I tried the dagger. I tried to get into a whole variety of weapons to see what suits my veteran best. And honest to God, it fell down to the chainsword because the chainsword offers very good horde clear, extremely high single target damage against muties or other enemies that, and listen, if you can kill them fast, it saves your team a lot of time rather than you have to swing, rev it up, tear it up. So this has been the saving grace and the ideal choice for me. So the chainsword is my weapon of choice for this build, but it doesn't mean that other weapons are invalid. You can run other weapons if you so choose. All right, and don't forget that if you want, you can also put a 6 skin on your chainsword, which you should, because chainswords are awesome. Okay, although that skin didn't really change it much, but anyway. For the chainsword, what is going to be most important? Stats-wise, let's go through the perks first. In terms of perks, I went with melee critical chance and flak armored enemies. For the flak armored enemies, what is important is that you are more able to deal with enemies that are rushing up to you in hordes, the armored enemies. This is what this is for. I didn't really include maniac damage, which I may have to include in future when the mutants' hit points get buffed, because the heavy attack with the special rev already takes out a mutant instantly. This may change after patch 14 when the update eventually drops. We will do our retesting and then the perks may adjust as needed. That being said, in terms of the blessings, the number one blessing that I like to have on it is Wrath. Okay, having Wrath on the chainsword is very good. The other blessing, take whatever you can get. In this case, I happen to have Devastating Strike, which serves me just fine. It's nothing too difficult or fantastic, but it serves me just fine. Okay, so Wrath was my choice, and then every time I critically hit, I get even more cleave, which is very useful for dealing with hordes. Now for your stats, in terms of stats, what you want is damage and penetration. These two are crucial. Why? Because the penetration stat helps you against flak armored enemies, and it will just help you deal more damage in general with your light attacks versus flak armored enemies, okay? Finesse is super important as well. Damage, penetration, finesse, all these three are super crucial. Finesse affects your critical and weak spot power, as well as your attack speed, so you really want it as high as possible. Mobility needs to be above 65. Why 65? Because the lower it is, the harder it will feel to dodge and have fluid combat with the chainsword. The chainsword is a relatively slow weapon, so you really don't want to deal with a low mobility stat. Shredder is kind of the dumb stat, but you want it to be above 65. Okay? Best case scenario, you can get a shredder of, say, 70 plus. Why? This affects your heavy attack sawing rip. Shredder specifically affects the damage of your sawing attacks. If you have it too low, you won't be able to kill a mutie. And you need to be able to kill the mutant, alright? So Shredder is important for that. Make sure to apply it whenever you can and try to get one. Like 65 is, I would say, the lower limit. Try to get it above 70. In this case, this was the best chainsword that I could roll for this build, so I went with that. Alright? Okay, that about covers it for the chainsword. That is your melee weapon. Now let's talk about your ranged weapon. Only one ranged weapon works for this build. I tried a variety of others, including autoguns, shotguns, and for the Infiltrate Veteran, your Actran Mark 6D recon lasgun, the Vlad, as I like to call it, is your ideal choice. Nothing else will work with this build, or rather, nothing else will work as effectively. First, let's go through the perks. For your perks, you want to have range critical strike chance 5%. This is a must-have for this build. Without it, you are not going to be able to debuff enemies quite as fast. The second perk can be anything you want. Okay? In terms of your blessings, unfortunately, you need 2 tier 4 blessings to make this absolutely viable for Auric Damnation. For anything lower than Auric Damnation, like regular Damnation runs, things like that, you don't need 2 tier 4 blessings, but you do need 2 specific blessings. The first is Sustained Fire, where it activates on every 3rd and 4th shot in a salvo, and Infernus will cause 2 burn stacks on critical hit to a maximum of 10 stacks. This will be increased after patch 14, making this build even more viable. Stat-wise, what you want to have is damage and stability as high as possible. Stability must not be lower than 72. Many people think, wait, this gun doesn't even have any recoil in the first place. What are you talking about? If you have a stability stat of, like, let's say 59, which I had on one of my recon last guns, you'll actually start to really feel the difference in stability over a long firing period. But if you've got a decent stability stat of, say, 74, ideally you want it at 80, but, you know, I'll take 74 if I can get it. And damage, you want it as close to 80 as possible. Best is to have it at 80, exactly. Ammo above 70. Mobility, try to get it at least 70 if you can, but below that is fine. I would try to avoid mobility as your dump stat because it can really help you with dodging when you've got your gun out. And collateral is your dump stat because this weapon barely staggers anything anyway. Alright, let's take a look at the Actran Recon Lasgun. When you have a high enough stability, and it has barely any recoil, you will feel very comfortable blasting your opponents to shreds, okay? If you were to take a much lower stability count, say this one, alright, this one has only 59% stability, you will feel a bit of sway, alright? It's hard to tell, but it really tends to matter even more when you're in the field. Alright, when you're not getting hit, it doesn't feel like it's much. But the slight swaying can drastically affect the outcomes in the field, especially when you're taking ranged fire, because you have no range suppression immunity with this. So just be aware of that. This is why I rolled my stability as high as possible. Honestly, the difference was not felt until I was in the field. You might feel a drastic difference too. Also, because stability affects hipfire, it's much easier to hipfire well when you have a high stability stat, and in case you have no time to ADS, you can still, you know, pound plenty of last fire into the enemy. Alright, so this is what I did with my recon last gun, and I felt that it worked really well. Okay, now let's go into the curios. Now that you understand all this, let's go into the curios. In terms of your curios, I'm using max health and a toughness curio, as well as a stamina curio. The stamina curio, for this particular build, I realize what it helps with most is resurrections, because your Infiltrate Veteran is functioning in the role of a commando. You are kind of like I mentioned, jack of all trades, but also your role is to come in clutch when things get bad. So if somebody goes down because they were out of position or doing something stupid, infiltrate over, run over, and pick them up. Your infiltrate will end close to when you actually pick them up and stagger enemies around you for a short duration, but they will be able to whack you in a lot of cases, assuming you don't take the leave no one behind talent, which personally I don't take because it's a waste of a talent point for me. And because I don't take that, I found the 3 stamina actually very useful for doing more blocks, more pushes with my chainsword. It was helpful in general. So with this particular build, running the 3 stamina works. It means that you have overall slightly less toughness and health, but I find that it just gels well with everything that I do in this build. So positioning is super crucial with this, being able to move, being able to push, being able to hold the line. All right, you are a commando that holds the line. So yeah, stamina was my choice. But otherwise, toughness, health is good enough. And of course, perks-wise, you want toughness, regeneration, speed, damage resistance gunners, combat ability regeneration. That pretty much is what I use across the board. And that's what I've got. So it has worked exceptionally well, and I have no regrets, honestly. Okay, now, last but not least, what we're going to do is go through the talent tree. I'm going to explain some things and also do a couple of demonstrations in between. All right, because what you need to understand is that the talents for this are very specific. There is very little, if not any, playroom. And although some people may have alternate builds that may work for them, I leave those to them specifically, because for me, this is what has worked the most in Auric Damnation runs. You can't save every run, especially if you drop into a run and it's already messed up and nobody can handle things. You're not going to be able to save that. But you can save most runs by playing well as a commando and fulfilling your role. So here's the talent tree. Camera vanish again. Let's talk about it. Okay, talent tree. Now, for the first part of your talent tree, what you'll notice is that you still have to take close order drill. Why? Because Krak Grenades are a necessity. If you're using Frag Grenades, you get the extra benefit of long shot and keep their heads down, which is actually very, very useful. But the thing is that Krak Grenades serve me better. Now, some people have asked for an extra explanation on Krak Grenades. I'm going to finish off this first part of the talent tree, and then we'll talk about Krak Grenades. So let's move on. You're also going to want Vanguard for the lowered sprinting cost. This can really help when you need to get to an ally quickly, and you don't want to lose all your stamina doing it. Exploit Weakness is also why you are forced to take Vanguard, because Exploit Weakness will allow you to apply 2.5% rending to the target whenever you critically hit them. That being said, this is actually Brittleness. Okay, the description is incorrect. It says rending, but it's actually Brittleness, which is applied, which means everybody's damage is buffed. This is how you can help your team as a debuffer. You don't have to secure the range kill, soften up the targets, especially if you've got a Psyker that's already shooting, and let the Psyker take the kill if they have to. It still restores your ammo, it helps you in your debuffer role, and it helps the whole team. Works beautifully against monstrosities. Think about that. Okay, from your Krak Grenade, you want to go down, get your health boost, range damage boost, take your melee damage boost as well, catch a breath. This is needed to unlock Survivalist, all right, which is very important to restore, because restoring ammo to your whole team means that a lot of the time the ammo drops for a good team will be left to you. Why? Your whole team will constantly be generating ammo as the specials die. Catch a breath is really good because at times you may need to play at range, and you will notice sometimes that with good positioning, there are no ranged enemies around you. You get toughness replenishment, which is sorely lacking with this build, okay? Otherwise, you have to use your infiltrate to replenish toughness, and you do not want to do that. I've tried using get back in the fight instead. It absolutely failed in Auric Damnation, and as you know, we test at the highest levels of difficulty. After Survivalist, grab Reload Speed Boost, because that's your only node afterward. Then you want to get your Toughness Damage Reduction, get your Demolition Stockpile, which is so good. Critical Chance Boost, which is absolutely necessary on this, and you need to get Infiltrate anyway. Get Grenadier instead of Leave No One Behind, because 3 Krak Grenades works a treat for monstrosities. And right now, until they change it so that there's less crushers running around, Grenadier is still going to be your most useful feat. All right. In future, I may need to take the Grenade Tinkerer instead, depending on how much the crushers advance in terms of health points and all that. But for now, this is working. All right. Okay, now I promised a Krak Grenade explanation. Why do we use Krak Grenades in a lot of these builds when Frag Grenades should theoretically work well? The reason for Krak Grenades is that they are pretty much guaranteed to instantly take out most targets. Okay, throw it right, and most targets will die. Now, the Reaper isn't, but, you know, most targets will be taken out, especially Bulwarks and Crushers, which you are using this against. All right, just attach it to your Crusher, to the Bulwark shield, and your team no longer has to worry about this creature anymore. So this is why I take Krak Grenades, because Bulwarks and Crushers are sometimes the things that wipe out teams because somebody didn't bring along armored damage. Okay, sure, some people have argued, oh, well, you could just shoot it with the recon last gun. Yeah. This is not the so-called infinite ammo last gun build, which has its own problems, but I'm not going to go into that here. This is going to cost you ammo. Yeah, sure, if you can reliably hit the Crusher's head. Sure, Palo, sure. It's still going to cost me a large part of my magazine to actually do that. All right, let's see how much ammo it's going to cost me to take down a Reaper. Practically half my mag. So, yeah, rather than doing that, what I prefer to do is just toss a grenade at them and eliminate the threat. Also, if they're closely clustered, you can kill 2 or 3 of them at once. Yeah, think about that for a second. Okay, so this is why I use the Krak Grenades. The Frag Grenades, if you really wanted to go into that, they are useful. Don't get me wrong. Okay, you can have up to 4 Frag Grenades, but they are mostly for anti-horde. Like, if you really want some horde control, this is what'll do it for you. That being said, the big issue with Frag Grenades is the bleed damage isn't much. Okay, it weakens the horde but doesn't even kill it. Some people have claimed that you can use them against bulwarks, you know, crushers and all that. Let me just show you the reality. Look at how much damage it's gonna do to the bulwark. So I thought of doing this proof, like, look, I don't want to say you're wrong. If you think that you're right, you know, use it if you want. But the bulwark, if we look at its hit points, barely suffered anything. That 413, look, it's barely even a quarter of its damage. So please do not use the Frag Grenades unless you really want to gimp yourself. You want to gimp yourself and your team and Auric Damnation, by all means. Go ahead, take the Frag Grenades. I'm not going to stop you. Okay, it's your choice to completely decimate your team and not bring the right equipment, but then don't blame me for your failed Auric runs. If you're running in a pre-made with friends, please do not use that as evidence either, because using that as evidence doesn't really help anyone, since your friends will probably have a loadout that is coordinated with you. Randoms do not have this. You do not even get a chance to coordinate with them. Sometimes you're just thrown in, especially if you quick play, so bring along the optimal tools for the job. Take your Krak Grenades, okay? Don't take Krak, just the Krak Grenades. Okay? Great. Let's carry on with the rest of the talent tree. Alright, for the rest of the talent tree, after you finish off your survivalist and you've got your demolition stockpile and grenadier, you're going to want to get Infiltrate. Infiltrate will replenish all your toughness when you enter stealth, and you'll be in stealth mode for 6 seconds. You gain 25% movement speed, and leaving stealth suppresses nearby enemies. Attacking will make you leave stealth. Base cooldown, 60 seconds. It's going to drop to 45 seconds after the next patch. Alright, what else do you take? Hunter's Resolve will give you 50% toughness damage reduction for 10 seconds after you leave stealth. This is absolutely crucial in those high-intensity combat moments because this will save you. Not only do you restore all your toughness, after you come out of stealth, you have 10 seconds where you're taking half the damage to your toughness that you normally would. You still don't want to be taking much damage, to be fair, but in range scenarios, this can really be a big help. Overwatch allows your Infiltrate to gain 1 extra charge and adds a 33% cooldown, bringing its entire cooldown from 60 seconds to 80 seconds. All right. For Surprise Attack, your Infiltrate will grant you 30% damage for 5 seconds when you leave stealth. Now, this thing is kind of useful, but if you really don't like it or you don't find much value in it, and to be honest, sometimes I don't, you can happily strip it off and go put your, go put your point into something else if you really want to. I'm not quite sure what else you put it into, but for now, surprise attack works fine for me. Okay, suppression boost will help you deal 5% more suppression. This is necessary because you have to go into this tree down here. Okay, so the right-hand side of the tree is what works best for an Infiltrate Veteran. Duck and Dive will restore your stamina when you avoid range attacks by dodging, sprinting, or sliding. Reciprocity will allow you to get 5% extra critical strike chance for 8 seconds on a successful dodge, and this stacks up to 5 times. So you can get up to 25% extra critical strike chance, and it is very useful when dodging in combat. You dodge a melee attack, boom, extra 5% critical hit chance, which helps you kill them even faster. It's beautiful. Agile engagement will allow you to deal 25% additional damage with your other weapon for 5 seconds on an enemy kill. How do you actually make use of this? Well, it's pretty simple. As long as you get a kill, let's just say I get a kill, right? I switch to my gun. My gun is going to deal bonus damage for 5 seconds. I get a gun kill, then my melee is going to do bonus damage for 5 seconds. Agile engagement is useful because in a lot of high pressure scenarios, you'll have to switch between your melee and your range. So having this extra agile engagement there is really, really helpful. Stamina regeneration boost will basically change how fast your stamina regenerates. And this is going to be further modified after the new patch, so I'm really excited for that. Onslaught will allow you to apply rending, or brittleness in this case, to targets. And it applies when there are continuous single hits to a target. This is another 40% of brittleness, all right, for 5 seconds. And if you add up both exploit, weakness, and onslaught together, well, in the future patch, it'll be 60%, but for now you can get up to 80% brittleness, which, if I'm not wrong, is the upper limit. But that 80% brittleness is very useful. It'll make everything so much easier. It's basically like having the trauma staff. So again, this has the same value that the trauma staff has. Debuffer. The toughness boost is your next option. Then you want your melee damage boost. Desperado, which will increase your melee critical hit chance and your melee finesse bonus. And then Trench Fighter Drill will increase your melee attack speed, which is absolutely excellent with this build. And last but not least, you take a toughness boost of 25 extra toughness. This gives you final stats of 163 toughness and 188 hit points. Your hit points aren't that great, but honestly, the high toughness helps you survive a lot. So now that you know the general talents, all right, I'm just going to do a talent overview. For those of you that want to copy it, you can scroll down right now and pause it wherever you need to. All right, this is the talent overview, so you can easily copy it. You can pause me at any time in case you want to refer. And there you go. I always like to do these talent overviews. There's also this talent right down here, which increases close damage for 10 seconds. It's not melee damage, but close damage. So if you pop your infiltrate right next to the enemy, even your ranged weapons can deal close damage, just so you know. But I didn't take this because I felt it wasn't as useful. Okay. All right. That is it for the talent tree. Now, playstyle, I've already described it as I've gone through this whole video. The only thing left for me to say is that if you guys are interested in the combat demonstration for this video, make sure to click the link in the description of the video, which will take you to the combat demonstration. But if you cannot click the link, don't worry. I have a card which will appear up here that will link you to the combat demonstration. So click that. It'll be on my sub channel. You can see the run that we did with the Commando Veteran, and I hope it'll teach you a bit more about the playstyle. Okay? Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you want to see more content from me. And before we go, as always, we thank all of the amazing people that make our content possible, starting with our October bigwig supporters, all right? Starting right at the top, our top tipper is RiverArcher124. Our top tipper list includes Vazgen. Our top super chatter is Jason Kun. Our top super chatter list includes Oracle Blade, Death Dawning 982, Dookie, Strix, Necron Sage, John Taylor, and Paxi. Thank you so much. Top channel membership gifter is Nightshade. In terms of our channel members as well, and we always do thank our channel members who make all of our content possible, Let me start right at the top. Here are the amazing people that we know. Our top channel member is Big Chungus at the only fan level. We've got Death Dawning 982 at Plus Ultra. We've got Yuri, Jason Kun, Jerry Fast, Rogue Assassin, and Zach MG at Prestige. Thank you guys so much for all your kind support. In terms of our honored robots, we have Cordova, Yabs, Nightshade, Corey Ryu, Bob John, Cube, Devin Lashin, Mookie Mocha, Rena, Chase Taylor, Nathan Strong, Lady Neo, Joey Danze, Sayed Assad, Coda CMF, Kami SMH, Conrad C, and Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of our cool and weird bots as well. I hope you guys will continue to enjoy the game, and I hope you guys will continue to enjoy my content. I'll see you all on the next one. Y'all have a good day now. Bye-bye.